Right, I'm going to kick off there before. So yeah, today I'm going to talk about the Phoenix, and as I've been saying, I thought I'll start with the Phoenix because it's Pen's logo and the football club, and it seems to be quite an important symbol of Pen. And like I said, we're going to come to learn that the symbol is the main thing of it really, and that's the main thing I think I found. Everything, symbology, runs deeper and it's in everything. So yeah, but all we're going to look at is basically every culture and see what their stories are. And like I said, I tried to think where does the Phoenix come from, and so right, we'll start. This is like a standard story that you'll hear most people say when you mention the Phoenix to them. So they'll say it's an immortal bird that can regenerate or is otherwise born again. And that is what most people will say when we say the Phoenix. But so it's associated with the sun, and it obtains new life by rising from the ashes of its predecessor. Some legends say it dies in a show of flames and combustion, while others that it simply dies and decomposes before being born again. And this is a depiction of the Phoenix from 1806. And this is what's interesting. We're going to see, like I say, pictures and images throughout the ages and how it's changed and differs, and it's very interesting. So ancient legend paints a picture of a magical bird, radiant and shimmering, which lives for several hundred years before it dies by bursting into flames. Then reborn, so certainly again, but this is a different picture of what someone says a phoenix could look like. And this is from Pliny the Elder, so that's quite old, saying it looks like a golden pheasant of the Far East. And like I said, there's lesser known versions. So the Greeks named it the Phoenix, and we'll get into that later, and that's how it's connected to Pen. But it's associated with the Egyptian Bennu, the Native American thunderbird, the Russian firebird, the Chinese Penmaenmawr, and the Japanese Koko. And if any of you know Pokemon, that's what the Japanese Koko is. It's in Pokemon, but and this one, I can't find any stories about this. There's a few like snippets here and there from like Jewish elders and that saying this is a story, but I can't find the source of the story, so I'm not sure. But it says, in Jewish legend, the phoenix is known as the milken, a faithful and immortal bird. Going back to Eden, when Eve possessed the apple of knowledge, she tempted the animals of the garden with the forbidden fruit. The milken bird refused the offer, and was granted for its fate the town where it could live in peace almost eternally, rebirthing every 1,000 years, immune to the angel of death. It's a cool story, but like I said, I can't find any sources for it, I can't find where it's come from. And it must be pretty modern, because it says the apple of knowledge. And in all the ancient biblical texts, it's not even mentioned as an apple, the earliest as a pomegranate, so interesting and welcome. Here we have another phoenix from 1583, the ever singular bird. And the modern English word comes from the Latin, reinforced by the French, and this is where it starts to lose me when it's like, just tell me where it's come from, I don't know. It says the word first entered the English language by way of a borrowing of the Latin phoenix or phoenix. This borrowing was later reinforced by French influence, which had also borrowed the Latin noun. In time, the word developed specialized use in the English language. For example, the term would refer to an excellent person in the 12th century, an heraldic emblem in the 15th, and the name of a constellation in the 17th. And straight away there you can see how, like I said, that's not even a big gap from the 12th to the 17th, and it's changed its meaning 3 times. So, like I said, the progression of these symbols, it's good to look at. Classical discourse on the subject of the phoenix attributes a potential origin of the phoenix to ancient Egypt. Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BC, provides the following account of the phoenix. And some are saying, like I said, this is the original story that we'll find later here. So the Egyptians have also another sacred bird called the phoenix, which I myself have never seen, except in pictures. Indeed, it is a great rarity even in Egypt. Only coming there, according to the accounts of the people of Heliopolis, once in 500 years, when the old phoenix dies. Its size and appearance is like the picture that as follows. The plumage is partly red, partly golden, while the general make and size are almost exactly that of the eagle. So far, of all the pictures I've shown you, the eastern pheasant seems the most reliable. They tell a story of what this bird does, which does not seem to me to be credible. They say he comes all the way from Arabia and brings the parent bird, all plastered over with myrrh, to the temple of the sun, and there God buries the body. And we'll go back into the story later, because there's a few different versions, and like when we get into the myrrh and the sun, you'll see how it connects with Christianity then. And, yeah, it runs deep, man. I was not expecting any of this, so in the 19th century, scholastic suspicions appear to be confirmed by the discovery of Egyptians in Heliopolis had venerated the Penn, and this is the Penn bird, which they say is the phoenix, but then why is it called the phoenix in this one and not the Penn? A solar bird, similar in some respects to the Greek phoenix. However, the Egyptian sources regarding the Penn are often problematic and open to a variety of interpretations. Some of these sources may have actually been influenced by Greek notions of the phoenix, rather than the other way around. And we'll come across that a lot like, oh, it was them who started, no, it was them. Right, so we'll get into this Penn bird and what it means, and So Penn is an Egyptian deity linked with the sun, creation, and rebirth. He may have been the original inspiration for the phoenix. It says his major cult centre was in Heliopolis, and his symbol was a grey heron. And a grey heron to me is not what they're describing as a phoenix. Like they're describing it as a colourful bird. And, like, so for me, I'm not sure there. But yeah. According to the Egyptian mythology, Penn was a self-created being, said to have played a role in the creation of the world. He was said to be the Ba, or the personality component of the soul, of the sun deity Ra, and he is said to have enabled the creative actions of Atum. The deity was said to have flown over the waters of Nun that existed before creation. And this to me sounds a lot like when it says in the Bible, the Spirit of the Lord flows over. And then he lands on a rock and issues a call that determined the nature of creation. He was also a symbol of rebirth and was therefore associated with Cyrus. Some of the titles of the Penn were He Who Came into Being by Himself. And that sounds to me a lot like Toth or Pot, if you know Hermes Trismegistus, and we'll all connect there. And the Lord of Jubilees, another reference to the Bible that we'll get into. The later epithet referring to the belief that the Penn periodically renewed himself like the sun was thought to do. His name is related to the Egyptian verb WBN, I'm not going to try to say that as a word, meaning to rise in brilliance or to shine. And again, like I said, we've talked about the Tuatha De Danann and the shining ones, and it's, the connections. This is a Masonic symbol from a coat of arms. It's hard to see the actual thing, but it has got the Masonic compass like just around its neck. But it's a very early version of it, like before Freemasons existed. And this is another telling of that Herodotus story, but it gets a bit more into depth. So let us consider the strange time which takes place in the east, that is in the districts near Arabia. There is a bird which is called the phoenix. This is the only one of its kind, and lives 500 years. When the time of its dissolution in death is at hand, it makes itself a sepulchre or something, of frankincense and myrrh and other spices. And when the time is fulfilled, it enters and it dies. Now from the corruption of its flesh there springs a worm, which is nourished by the juices of the dead bird, and puts forth wings. Then when it has become strong, it takes up that sepulchre in which are the bones of its predecessor, and carries them from the country of Arabia as far as Egypt, until it reaches the city called Heliopolis. And in the daylight, in the sight of all, it flies to the altar of the sun, places them there, and then starts back to its former home. Then the priests inspect the register of days, and they find that it has come at the fulfillment of the 500th year. And that's a cool story, to say it dates back to like the 2nd century BC. Cool story, but like I say, the frankincense and the myrrh, and the temple of the sun, you're going to see a lot of connections with Christianity here. That come before it, it's a symbol in the sky. I keep getting ahead of myself. And this one as well talks about, we talked about Enoch and the Cadaridris before, and this connects again to this. So it is said that the Pyramid of Giza stems from the word phoenix. This bird is said to derive from the name of the biblical character Enoch. The pyramid is reputedly known as the House of Enoch. The word pyramid comes from the Greek pyramis and pyramidos. Pyramis may relate to the shape of the pyramid, whereas pyramidos has been translated to fire in the middle. And Cadair Idris's original name was the fortress of the fiery pharaoh. So again, it connects with the phoenix and Enoch, and so it's very interesting. In Egypt, the pyramid is called Myr. Some scholars believe it was called the Pernetta, or the house of nature, or the house of the gods. In Phoenician, it is the Pyramido, which means light measures, which I find because measuring the light, and people say it measures the whole planet. I don't understand how, it's the circumference of the earth or something. But yeah, the Phoenician saying means light measures, and even in Hebrew, the word midah means measure. So like I say, only the West call it the pyramid, like they don't even call it that in Egypt. So the Greek word pyramis is related to the pointy-topped wheat cakes of the Egyptians. And you see these on all the old hieroglyphs where they're holding like some cone, and they say it was the bread of the gods. Its similarities to the Ben capstone that was once located on the top of the pyramid. Curiously, the Egyptian word for phoenix is Ben, so Ben stone, Ben. And there's a story of that the phoenix was on top of the pyramid and he set off, and that was the Ben stone. Some interesting stories. But now we're going to get a bit more modern, and we're going to get a bit more esoteric, and we're going into the Rosicrucians and the Freemasons. And as I said, symbology. To some people, symbols mean everything. So yeah. The image on the right is from an old manuscript called The Secret Symbols of the Rosicrucians of the 16th and 17th centuries. And as you can see, it also displays three alchemical glyphs for salt, sulfur, and mercury. This symbol relates to the alchemical regeneration and transmutation of the soul personality. So to me, like you said, that's the phoenix. It's a regeneration class of the soul personality. And when we get into the alchemy, you'll see what the phoenix, the philosopher's stone, to me, alum. Spiritual alchemical awakening process that can only be integrated by upright living. The double-headed eagle is also known as the phoenix, the bird of resurrection. This mythical bird was said to live up to 500 or 1,000 years. The phoenix was known as the swan of the Greeks and the eagle to the Romans. According to the ancient mystics, this bird was the symbol of immortality of the soul, one side feminine relating to the moon, and the other masculine relating to the sun, representing the duality of the spirit and the soul, the bar and the car of the Egyptian, and the eros and the psyche of the Greeks. In the words of Hermes Trismegistus, the sun is its father, the moon is its mother, the wind has carried it in its belly, its nurse is the earth. And I don't have a clue what any of that means, but it sounds cool. But like I say, what these people were talking about back in the 16th centuries, and I know they call it the age of illumination, but it is fascinating how we all of a sudden just start talking about all this stuff, and now it seems to have lost all this knowledge, or it has been hidden. Yeah. So here we've got another Masonic emblem with the double-headed eagle and the fleur-de-lis, and if you know the fleur-de-lis, that is one of the, anywhere you see that symbol, it's Freemasonic Illuminati, and it stems from a French royal family. Yeah. The Masonic emblems being held by the great hermaphrodite in Freemasonry. The symbol of the 18th degree of the Scottish Rite is the pelican or the eagle. The Hebrew masculine noun, and obviously that's just some shapes to me, so means a kind of vulture or pelican. In fact, the name Abraham contains this very reference. Ab meaning father, and Raham meaning pelican. The name of Abraham correlates to an alchemical implication, where Abram means exalted father or sublime. The major character of the Blue Lodge degree, Hiram in Hebrew, means exalted brother or sublime. And if you don't know anything about Freemasonry, this guy Hiram is basically where their whole what do you call it, philosophy comes from, or he was the great builder, but there's no mention of him anywhere. They basically made this guy up. So, like, if that says you anything, that's what the Masons are like. But, yeah. These symbols and rituals, as well as the characters, are allegorical. And they say this, like, none of it's true, but like I say, when every single culture has a version of the story, to me there must be some truth to it. It can't all be allegorical. But that's just me personally. They held that the initiation elevated the soul from a material, sensual, and purely human life to a communion and celestial intercourse with the gods. The three alchemical symbols, sulphur, salt, and mercury, pertain to the 3 degrees of the Blue Lodge. So you'll hear people talking about the 3, and the lodges are separated into groups. You've got the Blue Lodge, the Black Lodge, the White. But the Blue Lodge is the one where most of your standard people, your everyday people will be, and it has 3 degrees, sulphur, salt, and mercury. And this is all alchemical, and we'll get into this. But when you hear people say 33rd degree Mason, that's only Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Most Freemasons only go up to 3rd degree. So it only means sulphur, salt, and mercury. Now this is the original town logo, and now we have a leek and a phoenix. Back then it was a palm tree and a phoenix. And I did find one before that where it used to be a palm tree and a peacock, but now I can't find it anywhere. So we'll just say this is the oldest, because I haven't got proof of that. So yeah.
When's that from then? How long ago?
I think this is from the 1800s, like, yeah, early 1800s. You can just I just type in online, postcard pen, and it'll just come up straight away. So if you do want to find it, because they've got loads of them you can just buy on eBay, old postcards, and some of them are really cool, like this.
So why do you think there's a farm showing there that related to you?
You'll see.
Ah,
I'm literally just saying that. But yeah, like I say, it's interesting. So the Greek word is first attested in the Mycenaean Greek, porniki, which probably meant griffin, but it might have meant palm tree. And like I said, when we talked about the industry that we've got around here, it was an axe factory, and I was saying I think they were doing alum production. And it says here, the word Phoenician, so it might have been palm tree. The word is probably a borrowing from a West Semitic word for madder, a red dye made from rubia tinted corn. So I've looked at, so they're basically saying this palm tree is a representation of this madder, which is a red dye. So, and then on the next page I've looked into this, and it says, the dye is fixed to the cloth with the help of a mordant, most commonly alum. So to me, the palm tree is the dye, and the phoenix is the alum. And I know that's like confusing, but the symbol these people use, like if you knew what that symbol meant back in the day, you'd have known, right, here they produce the dye of clothes. Like that's just what it had meant, right, the dye in clothes here. And this is all just my speculation and theory, I can't say for definite. But like I say, when we get into the Phoenician, and historians say that the Welsh stem from Phoenicia, and we got into that in the first one, the language of the Welsh Phoenician. Yeah, the word Phoenician appears to come from Phoenix, or those who work with red dyes. So the Phoenician bird, or the purplish red bird. So, but like I say, for me, I think the Phoenix represents alum, or philosopher's stone. But again, speculation. And this is, like I said, palm tree is meant to represent this thing, which is found, like I say, all over Europe and France, and it says it's like when they finish with the stuff to make the dye with, they make a spirit from the rest of the plant. So they were obviously getting drunk on it as well. And yeah, it says it's mixed with clay and treated with alum and ammonia. It gives a brilliant red colourant. And we heard how when people are creating alum, they have to use urine. How the Yorkshire trade for urine came, and it was people that haven't got pot to piss in, and that comes from all this. And fascinating, it is fascinating. And this is a 5th century mosaic from Phoenix, from Antioch, and a lot of people will say Antioch is where Christianity began. So yeah, and the Phoenix came to be associated with specific colours over time. Although the Phoenix was generally believed to be colourful and vibrant, sources provide no clear consensus about its coloration. Tacitus says that its colour made it stand out from all other birds. Some said that the bird had a peacock-like colouring, and Herodotus' claim of the phoenix being red and yellow is popular in many versions of the story on record. tragedian, declared that the phoenix had red legs and striking yellow eyes, that Lactantius, sorry if I'm getting these names wrong. Yeah, I'm glad we don't live in them times. Said that its eyes were blue like sapphires. And I found this interesting because, like I said, the last talk we did, Javen was talking about the statues, and they all have these brilliant blue eyes. We'll get into this later. Yeah. The Lactantius and Ezekiel the dramatist both claim that the phoenix was larger, with Lactantius declaring it was even larger than an ostrich. So like I say, we have various different, there's no actual consensus at the minute. Like we have a thing like various colours, and I latched onto the dye in the album straight away just because of the last talk. But like I said, we're getting to this is Salvador Dali's version of a phoenix. Wow. And yeah, I don't even want to be in that guy's head. Like,
that figure down the bottom.
Right down at the bottom. Yeah. But it does explain, because like I say, you could sit there and we could all interpret that in some way, couldn't we? And I quite love that because it is very personal, but I do like to hear what were you thinking when you did that? Come on. So it says, Dale represents the phoenix as an headless female human whose new body is engulfed in flames. At the woman's neck, a window or an opening reveals another plane with the head of an exotic bird. Looks like a chicken to me, though not an exotic bird. Anyway. The bird's head aligns with the woman's body, creating one figure. At the bottom of the print, covering the woman's groin, is another window revealing a scene. A faceless nude male stands contrapposto and points to the sky like a philosopher. And this is like I say, the Baphomet does this, Buddha does this, Jesus does this. There's a lot of the pointing to the sky. The figure has an orange semi-precious jewel is affixed to the print above his head, seemingly hovering above the man. Behind him is a hilly landscape with a palm tree and a figure riding a unicorn. So again, why is it put palm tree in there? Like, yeah. The figure has a long-stemmed rose sprouting from its head. Considering the nudity and the pose of the central man in the window, he is likely a representation of the philosophical Adam or the alchemical Adam. In alchemy, Adam is considered the first alchemist and the original philosopher. According to legend, the secrets of the Philosopher's Stone were revealed to Adam by God in the Garden of Eden, and after his expulsion, he spread the knowledge to a select few. Some alchemists claim that there was an alchemical treatise written by Adam himself. Like I said, that's all speculation. Again, a very interesting way to represent what we would say is just a baby. So I do find like this guy must have known something. And like I said, the palm tree for me is it's like, wow. So he obviously knows something more than the modern man who would be looking at that. And here we have the Philosopher's Stone symbol for it. And the Philosopher's Stone itself, the goal of alchemy, is sometimes described as a phoenix, because the stone is notoriously deep red and also undergoes transmutation through fire. And Alan, when we looked into it last time, the stone is deep red, and fascinating. Renewal and resurrection are two fundamental concepts in alchemy, making the phoenix's importance clear. Some alchemical images use different birds to represent the forming stages of the alchemical process, with the phoenix representing the final stage, the resurrection of the stone. And so the phoenix represents renewal, but the other birds that can represent this are the peacock, again, the swan and the crow. And the crow is very prominent in Norse mythology, and Odin has the ravens and stuff like that. So every existence, coarse crow, this is just a poem written by alchemy I found, and it's meant to represent their phoenix, Every existence, coarse crow commences, where the process of body, mind, heart, soul, crow roots a problem and inspires a goal. Then out of crow's black, light to the senses, a white swan floats on truth with pretenses. Soon a change without warning out of control. Peacock's true colours reveal self-extol, and I see within beyond defences. When the passion comes, not passion but pain, Pelican's profound bill must now be paid. But when blood drains away, their crow again, only this time different, solved, self-made. Black from its ashes, though pure white of grain, the phoenix, fiery, regarded, unafraid. And that is a beautiful point. And if you know anything about alchemy, he's literally just telling you the alchemical process that they will go through. And I'm not saying I know what the crow represents or what the swan represents, but it's basically said when you do something to the crow, the swan will appear white, then the peacock, bright colours, and yeah. So this,
Where's that come from, sorry?
I can send it again. It's from an alchemical manuscript I've got in. So yeah, I love all that stuff. But it talks about phoenix quite a lot. But like I say, if you know anything, I don't, but you can sort of guess the process they're trying to go through. And yeah. And it's such a shame that stuff like this has been lost, because for me that's like original medicine. Because when they say, oh, it was the elixir of life, or it was, I think there was like a medicine that was a heal or but this is again from the same manuscript, 1806, a picture on the right there shows it coming out of the flame with the stars. And yes, I'll read it. Initially, the second conjunction of the pure red and white, which again we're going to the alum, and it says without alum we cannot do the red and white, is fueled by the natural generative fires of the mixture itself, for which the alchemical metaphor is sexual energy. And if you know anything about Aleister Crowley and all them cults, they were into all this sexual tantric. So it must be something, I'm not saying like you said, but yeah. From this union, there emerges a pure crystalline substance, a gem which must be subjected to the fierce sun, fires of the furnace, the fourth degree of fire. And well, I'll get back into what I was just saying, there was only 3 degrees in Freemasonry, and we'll get into the 4th degree, yeah. But he's basically the grand Freemason of all, it's the king, basically, because he's the ruler of them all. And I mean, the king of this country is actually the head mason of all the Masonic lodges, so yeah. The phoenix, the strange flashing white jewel, the flower, the expanding feathers of white fire. The phoenix is the alchemical symbol for the complete transmutation. It proceeds with a display of brilliant colours and the appearance of the incorruptible elixir, the true stone, the quintessence which can transmute base material into gold, and which finally the 4 elements are by our mastery joined, knit and united together with one another. And I'm going to crack on about alum again, and I know I seem to be obsessed about it, but what do we hear about alum? It's the only thing that can detect silver from gold, and what's the word? It makes it all separate, so you can separate like any metal from gold with it. You can separate anything from silver. So I'm not saying it turns material into gold, but if you've got iron in gold and you put alum to it, and that iron is taken from it, you could say it's created gold. But yeah. And this is a cool picture. And it is hard to see, but this, the top in the sun is Helios or Mithras or Jesus, and then you've got the Baal here, which is your Babylon. You've got the 4 winds, but we'll talk about it a little bit. A phoenix sits on a bed of flaming coals, smoke and flames coming from its mouth. On its tail is depicted a figure surrounded by books, a naked soul form, and someone's put in brackets Sophia, so sophists and theosophists, and which it fits very well with their old crowd. So yeah, with winged heels, rises up towards a Zeus-like figure with thunderbolts, who stands above the clouds beside the sun in a radiant nimbus of light. The figure sitting on the tail is really intriguing, brandishing a double-edged sword and the tables of the law, which are the symbols of the New and Old Testaments, wearing the papal tiara but clad in worldly secular clothes, and sitting backwards on a dragon like a male whore of Babylon. But I'm not trying to say anything here again, but when you look at the book of Revelation, when it says Jesus will come back, he's got a double-edged sword, he's got a purple cloak, he's got a crown and the tables of the law, and there's just some mad connection to the sun. And I'm not saying it's true that Jesus could, don't listen to me, but yeah. So we're going to take a step into different cultures now. We start with Persia, so we've gone through all the alchemy again, what I think the phoenix representing like the town logo and alchemy, and that's where I'm at with it. I think it stems from the alchemy and it's been misconstrued, if that's a word. Yeah. So we'll start with this one from Persia, and this is their version of it. And I would like to say again, I'm sorry for pronouncing it, I'm sure most people have never heard it, so they don't even know if I'm pronouncing it wrong. But yeah, the Simurg, also spelled Penmaenmawr, is a benevolent bird in Persian mythology and literature. It bears some similarities with mythological birds from different origins, such as the phoenix and the puma. The figure can be found in all periods of Iranian art and literature, and is also evident in the iconography of Georgia, medieval Armenia, and the Eastern Roman Empire, and other regions that were within the realm of Persian cultural influence. And like I said, whenever we talk about Persia, it literally is the modern Iran. I think, yeah, Babylon and that is, yeah. So the Persian word Simurg derives from the Middle Persian Senur. Yeah. Also attested in Pazem text as Sinamuru. The Middle Persian word comes from a Western originally a raptor, likely an eagle, falcon, or sparrowhawk, as can be deduced from the etymological cognate in Sanskrit, so Seena, raptor, eagle, or bird of prey, which also appears as a divine figure, Saena. It's also a personal name and the word linked to Armenian as peacock. So again, like you say, why peacock's always here? I think it is the album. And this is a plate from the 70s. It's silver, it looks gold to me, or bronze or brass. So yeah, it might be silver plated, or I'm not sure. But it's very Norse looking to me. Like, I don't know why, but very Celtic. Something about it, very Celtic to me. And this is another plate from again, very similar like style, very symmetrical, whatever things, mandalas, is it? Mandalas. That sort of, yeah. So it's depicted in Iranian art as a winged creature in the shape of a bird, gigantic enough to carry off an elephant or a whale. It appears as a peacock with the head of a dog and the claws of a lion, sometimes, however, also with a human face. The Sphinx, and I'm going to say now, I think this is something to do with the Sphinx as well. Yeah. So, like, yeah, and like in the Bible, we've got depictions of animals with men with 4 different faces, and so there's something to it. The Sphinx is inherently benevolent, and I'm not just inherently benevolent mean it's always good. Inherently benevolent. Does benevolent mean good? Malevolent is bad. So this thing is ultimately good then, by the sounds of it. Being part mammal, they suckle their young. Strange for a made-up story to have that. So it has an enmity towards snakes. And this is the first time I'm going to mention snakes, but you'll see how it all connects, like I say, with James. Let's talk about the serpents and how serpents were worshipped in some of the earliest cults. And we'll see how this in the phoenix, which is just as early, opposed to this, yeah. Its natural habitat is a place with plenty of water. Its feathers are said to be the colour of copper. In some versions, and though it was originally described as being a dog bird, later it was shown maybe the head of a man or a dog. So this is some of the stories that they have about this bird. So in classical and modern Persian literature, the Simurg is frequently mentioned as a metaphor for God. In Sufi mysticism in the 12th century, the Conference of the Birds, Iranian Sufi poet Farad Uddin Attar wrote of a band of pilgrim birds in search of the Simurg. In the poem, the birds of the world gather to decide who is to be their king, as they have none. The Hupo, the wisest of them all, suggests that they should find the legendary Simurg, a mythical Persian bird roughly equivalent to the western phoenix. The Hupo leads the birds, each of whom represents a human fault which prevents man from attaining enlightenment. When the group of 30 birds finally reach the dwelling place of the Simurg, all they find is a lake in which they see their own reflection. This scene employs a pun on the Persian expression for 30 birds, see more. So basically, like I say, but I find it interesting that it's meant to be a metaphor for man's negative aspects, basically, and how we stop in ourselves to become God. If that's God, that's very Gnostic to me, and I'm not quite there. So we get into a Greek version of the phoenix, which is strange because the Greek already had the phoenix, so they've obviously got a different one. called the Chalkidri, and this means the brass or copper water serpent, or the copper serpent. And it's a mythical creature mentioned in the apocryphal second book of Enoch from the 1st century CE. Often seen as an angelic species, and if you look at like what the seraphim or the cherubim are described as, they're often described as having 6 wings and multiple faces, and yeah, fascinating. It says, they're seen as angelic in the narrative. They dwell near the sun and run its course around the earth with bringing heat and dew to the earth. The Chalkidri and phoenixes are described as creatures 900 measures in size, with the head of a crocodile and the feet and tail like that of a lion, each having 12 wings and are in purple like the colour of the rainbow. Both the Chalkidri and phoenixes are referred to as flying elements of the sun. In the second book of Enoch, at sunrise, all the Chalkidri break into song with their counterparts, alerting the birds of the world for a new day to rejoice. So these are the ones singing to God. I can't remember what this, where this image is from. But again, it looks like a dragon-like, and we're going to start getting it more dragon-like the further you go on. So, what was that? The Chalkidri has been interpreted as a translation of Nehesh. Again, I'm terrible with words. Nehushtan, the bronze serpent constructed by Moses, and Javan again going into the start of what's it called? Start of Hermes, Asclepius. But yeah, it says it was to protect the Israelites from attacks by the fiery flying serpent. And as I just said, Adar-Idris was the fortress of the fiery serpent, which it was destroyed by King Hezekiah as an idolatrous from Hebrew into Greek. Similarities to the story of the Chalkidri and the Phoenix, mentioned in the second book of Enoch, can be found in the Greek Apocalypse of Baruch, which mentions the story of Baruch seeing a large bird flying around the sun, said to guard the earth, who an angel identifies as a phoenix. Like, I don't know where these books are from. I've read the Greek book of Baruch, and like I said, the apocryphal books to me are sometimes far more like, they make a lot more sense than the Bible. I don't know, it could be blasphemous, whatever, but some person has decided, right, this is going in, this is not. So whatever gave that choice, like, oh, we're not including this. But then to me, it's like, they've not included it, but then they've kept it going, just with secret symbols, and just told us it doesn't exist. That's just my opinion. And then again, we'll get into the book how it's like the fiery serpents again, so yeah, I don't really need to get into that. Rod of Asclepius, and like I said, the only reason I put this in is because I don't want people to get confused with like the rod of Asclepius and the rod of Caduceus. Because the Caduceus that you see with the medical corpse is the symbol for Hermes and not the symbol for healing. I'll just read this quick thing here. And the staff of Caduceus is also called the staff of Hermes or the Caduceus. So, as god of the high road and the marketplace, Hermes was perhaps above all else the patron of commerce and the fat purse. As a corollary, he was the special protector of the travelling salesman. As spokesman for the gods, he not only brought peace on earth, occasionally even the peace of death, but his silver-tongued eloquence could he always make the worst appear better. From this latter point of view, would not his symbol be suitable for certain congressmen, all medical quacks, book agents, and purveyors of vacuum cleaners, rather than for the straight-thinking, straight-speaking therapeutist? As conductor of the dead to their subterranean abode, his emblem would seem more appropriate on a hearse than on a physician's card. And that's by a guy called Stuart L. Tyson written in 1932. And as you can see, the army has the caduceus as its symbol. And what does it say? Medical corpse. What's corpse? Dead bodies. So this guy's like literally saying it would seem more appropriate on a hearse, saying join the army, become a corpse, basically. Right. And that was all. And like when you look into the guy that designed that, he's a guy called Frederick P. Reynolds, and he's one of the 13 bloodlines, and yeah, not a good guy. And this is when people say to me, Ryan Reynolds and Wrexham, it's like you don't know his family. Like he may seem like a nice, happy-go-lucky guy, but from Wrexham, it's like some actor, isn't it? Everyone's like obsessed with him. It's like, He's into some evil stuff. His whole family, man, they're evil. Like, anyway,
See an American film? Sorry.
he's a Canadian guy, but he's from a British family, and like I say, when you look into the Reynolds, they're one of the 13 bloodlines, the banking cabal. So, and you wonder, like, you look into any person that is and this is totally off topic here, but you look into any celebrity, look into any celebrity or like high-powered person, they're all like related to these families or British royalty, or none of them come from nothing. Like you'll hear a story, I came from the projects in Brooklyn, man. No, you did, you're a posh little kid from a rich family. Like, that's what they all are, Jay-Z, all these rappers. So, yeah. Like, just be aware, these people that you like, oh, I like him. It's like, no, you like his acting, you don't know him. And yeah, so just never idolize these people. And I think that's a lot of the Bible story. Don't idolize these people, man, they're just people. And most of them are evil. So yeah, we're getting to in Slavic mythology and folklore, the firebird. And like I say again, I'm not going to try to leave right, Russian, Ukrainian. But yeah. So we get to the bottom and it says it's a magical and prophetic glowing or burning bird from a faraway land, which is both a blessing and a harbinger of doom. But I do feel like, say again, these are from complete, like Russia, quite close to like Persia, I suppose. But to have the exact same, like, it comes from a faraway land, and that's the same as the Egypt. And like they could have all read that in their stories from it. Yeah. But I just think it has to be some source. Like, it has to be. So the firebird is described in one of the texts collected by Alexander Afanasyev. Sorry, I don't follow my stand. I didn't have to do it in a Russian dictionary. I'm doing it there, I wasn't trying to do it.
And they said in Welsh or English,
No, it's Russian. Afanasyev. As having golden feathers, while its eyes were likened to oriental crystal. Other sources portray a large bird with majestic plumage that glows brightly, emitting red, orange, and yellow light, like a bonfire that is just past the turbulent flame. And I haven't seen it, I should have, because there's a few things, but like, bonfire night that we have now also stems from the Phoenix. Guy Fawkes is a made-up character. I know you know, it's in history, but it's in the books. Yeah, and they were all made up by the same people. Because it's all over, like all the Christmas, and I don't want to ruin Christmas for anyone. But the pagan influences are clear to see, man. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, these are not Christian, yeah. So the feathers do not cease to glow, even if removed, and one feather can light a large room if not concealed. And I did talk about ever-burning lamps last time, and I'm going to get into it a little bit. In later iconography, the form of the firebird is usually that of a smallish red-coloured falcon, complete with a crest on its head and tail feathers with glowing eyes. Like I just said, the feathers do not cease glowing even if removed, yeah? Plume alum, ever-burning lamp, and these are said to be feathered, like I say, alum is said to be a crystal, but it's not a crystal because it has small feathers, and everywhere you read it says it has small feathers. So again, like I say, it's like one thing, I'd say, oh, that's possible a coincidence. But when it's, everything seems to be lining up and connecting, it's like, yeah. So I'm not going to read that again because I read that last time, and it was just to show, like I say, we've already discussed how, alum is, So the firebird concept has parallels in Iranian, which we just talked about. In the Brothers Grimm, the fairy tale about the golden bird and related Russian magical birds like the sirin, the story of the quest itself is closely paralleled by the Armenian Hazaran Bibul. In the Armenian tale, however, the bird does not glow, but rather makes the land bloom through its song. In Czech folklore, it is called Ptak Onivak, fire-like bird, and appears, for example, in a Karel Jaromir urban fairy tale, also as an object of a difficult quest. Moreover, in the beginning of this fairy tale, the bird steals magical golden apples belonging to a king, and is therefore pursued by the king's servant in order to protect the precious apples. And again, like I say about the milk and bird and the apple, so a connection with an apple again, which I'm not sure why, because as you say, we always talk about the forbidden apple, and that is such a modern concept compared to the fruit of the Bible. Even, what's it called, the Book of Invasions, Liber Gabala, the Irish Book of Invasions, that talks about And if you haven't read that, read that, because that's basically the Welsh and Irish Bible. It comes before the Christian Bible. Pretty much the same stories, but it's saying how the Welsh and Irish, and that's where the Dwarf and all that comes from. And Liber Gabal, just put in Book of Invasions, the Irish Bible, and then should like it's something like Liber Gabal, Erin, or Erin. But yeah, it's Irish Bible. That's it, it will come up. So now we're going over to China and Japan. China first, so this is the image of the Feng Huang, opposite the dragon on the 12 symbols of the national emblem, which was the state emblem of China from 1913 to 1928. And again, that looks very much like a peacock kind of bird. And this is again the bird and the dragon. You're always going to see this opposition, this like, and I'm not saying which is good, which is bad, but the Rome seeing the eagle as theirs, and there's the story of St. Patrick driving out all the serpents. But then I've been looking into Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving, the turkey actually represents the phoenix. And I'll get into that later, so I've got some I want to play here because it's interesting. So the Feng Huang are mythological birds featuring in tradition throughout the Sinosphere. Feng Huang are understood to reign over all the other birds, which parallels the other story we just said. Males and females were originally termed Feng and Huang, respectively, but a gender distinction is typically no longer made, and Feng Huang are generally considered a feminine entity to be paired with the traditionally masculine Chinese dragon. So they're not saying they're opposed here, they're saying it's a pair of male and female, which again is a lot of it, like I said, what's the yin-yang symbol in it, light and dark, it's all. And this is what they have, and that to me again, it's very peacock-like, just the head, and I know these are just iterations or made pictures, representations, but a common depiction of Feng Huang was of it attacking snakes with its talons and its wings spread. According to the Arias, chapter 17, Shinai, Feng Huang is made up of the beak of a rooster, the face of a swallow, the forehead of a fowl, the neck of a snake, the breast of a goose, the back of a tortoise, the hindquarters of a stag, and the tail of a fish. So yeah, that's an insane looking bird. I'm sure these genetic scientists would have a field day. Including the head of a golden pheasant. So this is the first bird I showed you, the Far East Oriental golden pheasant. That's what the head of that is. The body of a mandarin duck, the tail of a peacock, the legs of a crane, the mouth of a parrot, the wings of a swan. Actually, it just sounds like some guy going mad, like, what can I make here? So the Feng Huang's body symbolises the celestial bodies. The head is the sky, the eyes are the sun, the back is the moon, the wings are the wind, the feet are the earth, and the tail is the planets. And surely that should say the tail are the planets, but yeah. The Feng Huang, I've said it different every time, but the Feng Huang is said to have originated in the sun. Its body contains the 5 fundamental colours: black, white, red, yellow and green. It sometimes carries scrolls or a box of sacred books. And again, like the first image where you have the guy with the book of law. And so like I said, very close connections, again, seemingly from the opposite side of the world. So it is sometimes depicted with a fireball. It is believed that the bird only appears in areas or places that are blessed with utmost peace and prosperity or happiness. So we've got a lot of work to do. The earliest known ancient phoenix design dates back to about 7,000, 8,000 years ago. So that's a long time, and was discovered in Hongjuin, Hunan province, at the Gaomio archaeological site. The earliest known form of the dragon phoenix design, on the other hand, dates back to the Yangshao culture of 5,000 to 3,000 BC. So that come like 3,000, 4,000 years later when they started mixing it with the dragon. The ancient usage of the phoenix and dragon designs are all evidence of ancient form of totemism, and totemism is just a form of worship and early religion. During the Shang dynasty, phoenix and dragon images appear to have become popular as burial objects. Several archaeological artifacts of jade phoenix and jade dragons were unearthed in tombs dating from the Shang-Di period. And this is how much does that look like the Sumerian or the Iranian version of it? And this is called the vermilion bird, and it's one of the 4 symbols of the Chinese constellations. According to Wu Xing, the Taoist 5 elemental system, it represents the fire element, the direction south, and the season of summer, which will be when the sun's highest, will make sense. Thus, it is sometimes called the vermilion bird of the south. It is described as a red bird that resembles a pheasant with 5-coloured plumage and is perpetually covered in flames. It is known as Juzaku in Japanese, Jujak in Korean, and Chutok in Vietnamese. And this is the Phoenix constellation. And I don't know how old this symbol drawing is, but it's been called a constellation since, like, say, the 1600s. So before that, according to the Chinese, like we just said. So yeah. It was first, I'm just saying, I don't know, it says first depicted on a celestial atlas by Johann Bayer in 1603. So that's when this picture is from. But as I'm saying before, they clearly have been stars. So yeah, the constellation stretches from roughly -39 degrees to -57 degrees. I don't know how many this is. If anyone's into, like, say, planetary right ascension and what house it's in, yeah, not for me, that's stuff I'm afraid, sorry. So yeah, the bottom one is from the Chinese. Oh, that's the same actually. Again, I thought I had the Chinese one. That one's going to say. I'm sure I got the Chinese constellation anyway. But the Chinese incorporated Phoenix's brightest star, Anka, or Alpha Phoenicius, and stars from the adjacent constellation Sculptor to depict Baku, a net forecatcher bird. Phoenix and the neighbouring constellation of Grus, together with seen by a Jewish or Aaron the High Priest. So we're getting to the Bible again, where it's Jesus the fisher, and like say his constellation is next to the sculptor. So when people say it's creator, it's just because the constellation is next to Sun's regeneration. Yeah, so we're getting to Native American now. In Native American culture, the phoenix is called the thunderbird. It is a large, colourful bird that could affect the weather. And I'm going to talk about this one in the next one, about weather. It also has healing powers, not only for humans, but by regenerating the earth by bringing rain. A phoenix was also the first image depicted on the Great Seal of the newly reborn United States of America in 1782. Which is where, when you hear people say Rome never died, to me it never did. Like say America is the new Rome, they've got the same symbols, the same laws, the same culture. Yeah, and like that, Babylon became Rome, and that was after the War of Independence from Britain. It was replaced later by that of an eagle. So it was originally a phoenix, and then it changed to an eagle. Oh, it's Japanese, we talked about that. Right, so this, we're here for the last talk that Javen did. He showed a little model, and I said, that looks like the bird that's all over Thailand, and this is everywhere in Thailand. And the models he was showing us are the same, like, squeezed-in thing like the beak, and it was in the same position that he was talking about representing the serpents. But I think it was this Garuda. So it's a Hindu and Buddhist bird, like deity, with the body of a human and the wings and beak of a bird. Garuda is the king of the birds, the enemy of snakes, and the mount of the Hindu god Vishnu. Garuda is also known as Suparna. It gets onto the phoenix there again, but here are some more details about Garuda. In the Puranas, which are the Hindu texts, Garuda was the son of Kashyapa and Vinata. Garuda's emergence from the egg was a terrifying sight, with his golden body radiating an unbearable luminosity. So it's saying he came out brilliant light, and if you've read the story of Moses, he's also said to have been radiating a brilliant light. Garuda's wing flapping can stop the spinning of heaven, earth, and hell. Interesting. Garuda is a metaphor in Vedic literature for rhythm, sound, sacrifice, and the self, so the deepest level of consciousness, and that's the Saman, Yana, and the Atman. But like, I found it interesting, I see how he was showing figurines from some area that looks like that. And that's all over there. So yeah. Where's this one for? This is another one from Arabia, but Saudi Arabia. The anchor, also spelled anchor or anchor, is a golden, mysterious or fabulous female bird in Arabian mythology. She is said to fly far away and only appear once in creation. However, it is also said that she can be found at the place of the setting sun. And that's a picture from the wonders of creation. Again, very peacock-like to me, like the tails, the colourful thing. Africa. So many African tribes believe that the bird was the highest state of perfection and form of life. So again, like I say, it's very representing perfection in all senses. In other words, when a human soul reaches the highest state, it becomes a bird. After having been reincarnated 7 times on earth, either as a human or animal, you are raised by the gods to the state of a bird. The bird is the freest creature in the world, for it is a friend to the air, to the land, and to the water. The Ingonye is the freest of beings. It is the fattener and fertilizer. And the Ingonye is what they call their being, this woman, yeah. So Quetzalcoatl, and like I say, how many different cultures have the same thing? Like, to say, and like I say, apparently these people have never spoke to each other, they never had any contact with each other, and that's according to the mainstream. I don't believe that. I believe they all have connection or they all stem from one. Yeah. But there's definitely more than what we're being told. But a lot of people have heard of Quetzalcoatl because we hear of the Pyramid of the Stone and the Aztecs. And so yeah, he's the Aztec god, similar to the phoenix, in that he is a resurrection god with solar characteristics that they've added. He is born of a virgin. And we'll get into that. So Quetzalcoatl was a creator god in both Aztec and Mayan cultures. He was also the patron of agriculture, science, and rain. His name comes from the Nahuatl language, and he was often depicted as a combination of a serpent and a green quetzal bird. He was also sometimes shown wearing a conical hat. The Aztecs believed that the resplendent quetzal, a bird with a striking blue tail, represented Quetzalcoatl. These birds are found in Central America and southern Mexico. I should have put a picture of it here, if anyone wants to find one. So he is the god of the sky religion. He's derived from the ultimate origins. He replaced and supplemented the ancient sky dragon. So he replaced the original. So people would have been worshipping the serpent, and then the phoenix replaced it. The sky was more changeable, more permeable than the earth. So the phoenix of the Western world made up for all sorts of avatars and possible forms of acting. And this is a guy who believes that Jesus and Buddha and all these just represent the phoenix. Yeah. Where's this one from? Can't remember where this one's from. I think it's Tamil. By the look of that language, or it's somewhere like Burma or so. I'm not sure. Paskunji, a phoenix-like being who helps heroes and humans. He lives in the underworld and fights the serpents there. And I think about Twafadedan and the god, I've forgotten his name, the black-faced god, and Anwin, is it? He takes the souls to the underworld, and he's represented by the phoenix. And like I say, if anyone wants any of the talks I've done, I can send them to you. I've got them all saved as presentations like this, so I'm sure I can find a way to get them across. Heroes summoned him by burning one of his feathers, and he could transport them to other places and heal their wounds and illnesses. In certain other myths, by contrast, Paskunjis are portrayed as being hostile to humans and have persecuted them. And this is where I think fallen in English means where some of the fallen ones, like I say, did. This one I find fascinating, because all the rest so far have represented the son and have represented the female. Now this one is from, I don't know, Gander or something like that. Australia, yeah. New South Wales, this guy. And they call him Balu, and that reminds me straight away of the rule book in it. During Balu's travels, Yi, the sun, caught Balu, but he refused her advances. So in this mythology, they believe that the sun is chasing the moon across the sky, whereas most of us believe the moon comes after the sun. Yi threatens the spirits who held up the sky, that if they let him escape down to earth, she will plunge the world into darkness. Nevertheless, Balu is sometimes seen walking on the earth. In Gamilara myth, he does so by disguising himself as a spirit he knew, tricking the spirits and going back to earth to once again reclaim his post of creating baby girls. Which is a strange, like just baby girls, he's not in charge of boys, just baby girls. One Aboriginal legend tells how Balu was once a clever man who lived with Wan the crow, so we have the crow again, and Penmaenmawr, the fly-catching lizard. So I get like the lizard and and these create the babies of the world. One day Wan asks Balu, in addition to making new babies, that they resurrect the dead as well. Balu refuses this request, making Wan very upset. Upon seeing a large gum tree, Wan asks Balu to climb the tree for grubs. He then breathed on the gum tree, causing it to grow into the sky. This is where Balu stayed, explaining why the moon travels across the sky. Well, they don't really explain why the moon travels across the sky. Because if he's stuck on top of a tree, the tree. But anyway, I'm sure these like fascinating stories for kids, and there's something in there somewhere, some truth. The Gamilaroi, also known as the Gomiroi, and other variations, and Aboriginal Australian people whose lands extend from New South Wales to southern Queensland. And I like how their flag has the sun on it, and the red and the black. And here we have the Anunnaki gods, and they're showing, like I say, phoenix-headed, bird-headed gods. And they've got pine cones in the hand. And you could sit for days and try to depict why do they have watches, why do they have handbags, what are the necklaces? They're fascinating. Here we have a scene depicting two falcon-headed beings giving something to man, which could be like, say, the Garden of Eden story. Again, I keep saying there must be a source to these stories if they all seem to have the same correspondence. And, right now, again, the Romans, the Romans loved the phoenix. Their coin showed the emperor's head on one side and the phoenix on the other. The phoenix represented Rome itself, the eternal nature of the empire, that it continues to return with each new empire. But even as Rome began its decline, the phoenix flourished in early Christian Europe. Its message of rebirth and eternal life fit the Christian themes, and popes like Saint Clement in 1996 AD used the phoenix to prove Jesus' resurrection. Like I say, like, how's that proof of anything? That's like these flat earthers that show, look, it's proved. It's like, no, that's proved. They're not telling you the truth. They don't prove that anyway. So monks included phoenixes in the bestiaries of the Middle Ages, making no distinction between God's wondrous creations, real or imaginary. During the Renaissance, the phoenix was a popular emblem of royals like Elizabeth I and martyrs like Joan of Arc. This is the greatest period for the phoenix, according to me. Why not, with a word like Renaissance, a time of rebirth and learning? You definitely have this time to appear. The eagle's killing snake, like I say, we've already said how far back it goes. The eagle, the serpent, the dragon, the phoenix, same things. The sculpture probably chosen to please the god Jupiter, and this is again, when I play the thing about Thanksgiving, how the turkey represents the phoenix, and the phoenix represents Jupiter. Well, the serpent represents Saturn. So it's all just Jupiter and Saturn, and I don't understand why these two planets were always fighting in the old stories, but that's just how it seems to be. Like, some people worship one, some the other, and So Jupiter depicted the triumph of good over death and evil. It was also a way for wealthy families to show off and commemorate their deceased loved ones. This is just an example of a coin, and like I say, every single thing they're saying it dates back to Babylon and Elam around 3000 BC. It says that the Egyptians saw it as Horus defeating Seth. Similarly, Ahura Mazda was depicted as an eagle, and Hanuman as a dragon, and that's the Zoroastrian religion, which is, to me is the oldest one, Zoroastrianism. The Greeks borrowed the idea of an eagle as a symbol of resurrection from the later Egyptian tradition. India, Indonesia, Rome, all over the Mediterranean. Most of these traditions use the eagle to represent some great good, usually a god related to the sun, combating the forces of the evil or the snake. We believe this symbol to be borrowed from Mesoamerica, or not, except from Mesoamerica, or they're saying it should borrow it, since they have so many commonalities. A lot of stories have the serpent winning over the eagle before the eagle triumphs. If you can access it, this is my source, Eagle and Serpent, a study in the migration of symbols. It was written in 1939, and that is an interesting book, and that's where a lot of these coin things are from, the Roman history. So if you get Eagle and the Serpent studying symbology, that's what the symbols always remain the same. And this is the Gospel of the Phoenix, another revelation of Jesus. And it was adopted through Christians, like we've been saying. A 6th century Coptic text describes the phoenix as the symbol of resurrection of life and death. The text also mentions the phoenix's arrival at key moments in the biblical history, such as when God frees the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. Church fathers use the phoenix as proof of resurrection. Hans Bosman's essay, Christ the Phoenix, compares Jesus to the phoenix, saying that Jesus died and rose just like the phoenix. And like I said, biblical verses mentioning it. Clement 25 said, this is the only one of its kind and lives 500 years. And we've already read about myrrh and frankincense and spices. And this is a Coptic tombstone from the 3rd century, and it depicts a phoenix. Here you have Jesus pointing to a phoenix. This is a mosaic of Adam from the Garden of Eden, and he's got a phoenix with him, and all the phoenix is one with the sun, like a halo. And then he's got all the other birds. And, palm trees again, like I say, palm trees and phoenix. But this is where I start finding it interesting, connected with Penn, and like connected with the Welsh history. Phoenicia. So, but it's saying Phoenix is a Greek king, meaning sun, red. So it could mean red hair. Like we got into with the Welsh and the red hair and the tire. But Phoenix was the son of King Aegon, but also it says that he's the son of King Belus, and we talked about Bel a lot last time. Bel seems to be the source of everything. In some accounts, Phoenix's father is called King Belus of Egypt, and he just talks about his siblings here. And Phoenix's mother could be identified as Arctua, daughter of the river god Nilus. Phoenix was believed to have fathered a number of children of different women by Cassiopeia, which is, I talked about that, it's the children of God. Cassiopeia is one of her daughters, and it's a constellation, same as Cadorydris, and he has a daughter called Can, and I find it interesting how we have Cans everywhere, or Cain. He has 3 sons. His natural father is said to be Zeus, who is also a Bel, so King Belus, king of Ethiopia. And this I find really interesting, because if you know anything about purple dye came from a sea snail only found in Phoenicia, and it was only worn by royalty at the time. And this is why I find, like I say, Jesus in the Bible wears the purple things, so he was a real life king to me. Anyway, I keep mentioning, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
So it all connects, and that's
But there's a lot of information, but I like
that's like, because I'm going to just bombard you all with like, but I have to show sources and receipts. I can't stand here and say, oh, it's this, like, where have you got this from? I've got it from here, so now I've got it from here. If you want to research, I just hope people go away and look into it themselves. That's all I hope, research, and I don't care what you research, just research.